Hey there, book lovers, and welcome back to Dad and Daughter Reads, a book club podcast. I'm your host, James, aka Dad. Today, we're wading deeper into the dreamlike world of Water Moon by Samantha Sotto Yambao as we explore chapters 30 through 43. With me today is my co-host and daughter, who before taking any action always thinks, what would Judy Gemstone do? Miranda, how has your week been?
And then I do the exact opposite. I can't stand her.
You don't like her?
No, I really don't.
She's so funny, though.
I think she's crazy.
Character's hilarious.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God. Every time.
She's out there, yes, but it's just so funny when she just blurts out random nonsense.
I just imagine, like, actually, if she was a real person, like, in my life, like, the amount of faces I would make at her. Like, the crazy faces. I would just be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, please stop. That's enough. But anyway, how's my week? My week was good. Didn't do too much, honestly. It was kind of chilling this week. Just getting errands done, and I don't know, just living life. I didn't go out this weekend. I stayed in. It's been pretty like rainy here. The weather's been really up and down and rainy and gloomy, so just been doing my normal thing. How's your week?
Yeah, my week was good. Grandma was here until Thursday, and we were dodging tornadoes, which is normal this time of year here. Yeah, we had a couple tornado warnings a couple nights. That was about it. I watched some more Righteous Gemstones, which we were just talking about Judy, who I think is very funny. Yeah, that show is funny. But Kelvin, forget about Kelvin. He's an idiot. And I think the episodes I've watched, I think my favorite is the one where they go back into 1989.
Yeah, the flashback episodes are so good.
Yeah. And I like the one, and he was trying, baby Billy was trying to get his sister to go on tour with him when she was pregnant with Kelvin. I think it would have been worth the risk, considering it was Kelvin.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I love the flashback episodes. They're always really good.
Yeah, and the kids, when they're kids, oh my God, those two. She's pretty bad then too. What did she say? She likes watching them get in trouble. It makes her bird twitch.
Yes, see, that's what I'm like.
And then the dad was like, what is a bird twitch? And he's like, you talking about your privates? I'm talking about my privates.
Oh my God. It's
so
like
funny.
It's like, why? Yeah, she's crazy. She's crazy. They're all crazy. But yeah. Well, I did watch the last episode of The White Lotus.
Oh, I haven't watched any of that.
Yeah, that was the last episode of the season, and it was pretty.
I might go back and watch all of those eventually.
It was pretty wild. I think I still like the second season the best out of all three.
That's the one that has
Aubrey Plaza. Yeah, that one was really good. Third season was good, but
what's the one blonde older woman's name? Which season was she on? Was she on 2 or 1?
Who, Jennifer Coolidge?
Yeah, her.
She's in season 1 and 2, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She's in both. Yeah,
I may have to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
If I ever find the time.
Yeah, you could try it. I don't know how much you like it, though.
Yeah.
Because it really is just kind of about, like, rich people dynamics. But the second season, I think you would like better than the other two. But then you probably just want to watch the third season for Walton Goggins anyway.
Right. Yeah, because I like Aubrey Plaza and I like Walton Goggins. So,
but the second season, you probably would like Aubrey Plaza, Jennifer Coolidge. It's more there's a lot more going on in it. I feel like than the other 2 seasons.
Okay.
The stakes feel a little bit higher and more exciting, personally. Okay. But yeah. So that was
I also watched 3 or 4 episodes of The Expanse, but I'll talk about that when I get to what I read.
Okay.
Speaking of which, what did you read this week?
This week, other than Water Moon, I'm just in the middle of the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I've got it right
yeah,
here.
how's that going?
It's going. I'm literally like maybe a little less than halfway through. I'm on chapter 11.
Okay.
No, I like it. It's cool. I'm still kind of like confused about things, but I think I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, because there's just a lot.
Around three quarters of the way through, you'll figure it out.
Things start to make sense.
Oh, it will. Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Because sometimes I'm like, did I miss something? And then I'm like, no, I don't think I did. I think I'm not supposed to know yet.
Yeah.
But I don't have, as long as I know that I haven't missed anything, then I'm like, okay, I'm patiently waiting for everything to start coming together and making sense.
Yeah. It'll all come together around 3/4 of the way.
Yeah. But I do like it. I mean, I like the world that they're in. I like the interesting perspective of Isun.
Yeah, because it's in second person perspective.
Yeah. Which is really interesting and cool.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Also, like that it's centered around like these 3 female characters. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's really exciting. Yeah, and then I was reading it at the Kid That I Nanny Has drum lessons. So I was reading it there, and one of the guys came up to me and started talking to me about it. And he told me that the first book is the best.
It is. It's the best, but the whole series is good.
Yeah, he was like, no, you have to read the whole series. But he was like, but honestly, like the first book is the best book out of the 3.
I would agree with that.
Okay, yeah. I was like, I'm going to ask my dad.
Because I think I ranked it 4.5 for the first book and then 4s for the rest, the other 2. Because they're all good. I mean, they all won a Hugo. So yeah, they've got to be good.
Yeah, because at that point, I truly was only like 3 chapters in. So I was like, I can't form an opinion yet.
Right.
But that's what this guy told me. That's what the music guy told me. So
the music guy.
Yeah, I didn't get his name. And then the kid I nanny told him that I had a podcast. So maybe he's listening. He's like, she has a podcast. It's like I do. I was like, we're not reading this book, but it is a book club podcast if you're interested. So there you go. Thanks, shout out to the Kid I Nanny for promoting my podcast.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's all I'm reading. It's hard for me to read. It's hard for me to read 2 books at once, honestly. I usually like to read 1 book at a time. So I'm trekking through this one, but I am quite enjoying it. And it's nice to be in another fantasy world and start a series. So yeah. But what about you?
I tried to read 3 books at once this week.
Oh.
I did read the first book of the Expanse series, Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. And it was good. It's really good. And basically the premise is it's the 23rd century. Humankind has conquered its solar system. There's 2 points of view. James Holden, who is the captain of a ragtag crew, and then Miller, who is a detective on the Ceres asteroid, which is in our asteroid belt. They've built a city inside the asteroid. Ceres is like it's really a dwarf planet. It's actually spherical. And then there's also Eros, which is another big asteroid that humans have colonized and built a city on. But that one's more shaped like a potato. But we get to go to both of those in the story. And there is an alien entity that comes along. I don't want to spoil too much in case anyone's listening who plans on reading this. Basically, the moon Phoebe, it's a moon of Saturn, was shot at the Earth as a weapon billions of years ago by another alien race. However, it didn't make its way to Earth because it got caught up in the gravity of Saturn, and it just circled Saturn for billions of years. Oh. We had scientists go there, and they found something. And that's pretty much the whole premise and what happens. And I've watched 3 or 4 episodes of the TV show, and the story's pretty close. There's another character that's in the show that wasn't in the first book, but she's in the second book because I started reading the second book last night, and I've already run into her. Adaptations are always a little bit different, so there's some other few differences, but it's not a big deal. You get the overall story of what's going on in the first book. Pretty good too. It's a good show. You might like to watch the show if you don't want to read the books. It's very science fiction, space, ships, and
yes, I have been recommended that show. It's on Amazon though, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I don't have it. So that was the problem I ran into when I was recommended the show.
Yeah, and I thought at one point they were going to stop showing seasons 1 through 3 back in March sometime, but they're still on there. So I'm trying to get them watched before they do remove them for whatever reason. There's 6 seasons total. But I also started to read a book called Reading Like a Writer by Francine Prose. And I got 2 chapters in and threw it directly into the McKay's selling pile. Because, oh my God, the author's so pretentious. This is what she said. She really learned how to read when she was studying in India and decided to read Proust in the original French. Oh my God, please shut up. She would be like, if you had a friend named Sammy, she would probably call him Samuel.
I was going to say she'd probably get mad at you for pronouncing Proust as Proust.
Well, whatever. I don't speak French. So yeah, because the whole book is about read the classics. Mm-hmm. And I'm tired of books that are saying read the classics if you want to be a better reader or a better writer or whatever. Because they're old. The classics are old. This woman at this point is 70 years old that wrote this book. And the classics were classics when she was in college in the 60s. That's how old the classics are. So if you wanted to write a book in 2025, why would you want to use prose from the 1800s and the early 1900s? Like, there's much more modern classics out there, even in the 1960s and 70s, that you can learn from these days. And this book was first published in 2007, so 2007. So that's almost 18 years ago, I guess, but still books you could learn from that aren't the classics. So
what do you think a modern classic is right now? What would you call it?
Well, I mean, modern classics go back as far as like the 60s. So like the book I read last week, Slaughterhouse-Five, that's considered an American classic, modern classic.
Are there any classics you think from like the 90s or the early 2000s?
I don't know. I mean, we talked about that last week, right?
Did we?
Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah, I guess
that was a classic.
In fantasy.
Yeah, in fantasy, that would be a classic. I mean,
but yeah,
that was published in 96.
Right.
I mean, I mostly read fantasy and science fiction anyway, so I don't know. That's the only really what I can pick from. And I would say maybe the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb would be a classic. And the way she writes is really different than most people. Her prose is very different and very good. And I really enjoy reading her works. And that was published in 94, 95 also. Things have changed, you know? So if you want to be a writer in 2025, maybe you should read books that are closer to this time period and see what you can pull out of those instead of the classics. I don't know. That's just me. I don't know. I just got perturbed.
Yeah, no, I feel
by that book.
I understand.
Kind of went off on it. I mean, I was reading in my office Sunday morning, and when I read that line about reading it in the original French, I just got up and walked to my closet and threw it on the pile that I plan on selling in the case.
So you only read 2 chapters.
Yeah, and that was enough. I had enough at that point.
Reading like a writer.
Yeah.
I don't even know what does that even mean?
Well, there's more to it than that. That there's a subtitle to it. What is it? It's Reading Like a Writer, a guide for people who love books and for those who want to write them.
I guess, like, for me, I don't really feel like there's a need for books to tell people how to write a book. I mean, the people who wrote the classics didn't read books on how to write books.
Yeah, but it depends on the type of book, right? So this book in particular is not a very good guide. Now, I would say if you don't know anything about writing, you might want a more technical book that says, here's how to make an outline. You know, this is how your story should go. This is how it should flow, blah, blah, blah. Technical stuff that you may not know if you're just starting out or whatever. I think those books are fine for learning how to write. And it all depends on what your goal is. If you're trying to get a novel published, then you need to know all that, because otherwise, if you send it off to a publisher or you try to get an agent, they're going to look at it. And if it doesn't follow certain criteria, they're not even going to give you the light of day. So I think books like that are more technical are needed.
I guess for me, I just read, if I can read any book and feel like I know how to write it. Like, I don't know. I don't really understand books about how to write books. I guess. If you just read books, then you already know how to write a book.
Right. And the reason I wanted to read this one is because it was reading like a writer. That line in itself means you're just maybe better ways to read or interpret things is what I got from it. Kind of like how to read literature like a professor. And he talks about classics too, but you should expect that because it's how to read literature by a professor. He also has another book, How to Read Novels. And the one that's how to read novels, he doesn't talk about. I mean, he does talk about classics here and there, but he also brings up books that have been published more recently. Mm-hmm. But to your point, I think there are some books that are needed if you don't know all of the ins and outs of writing an outline, how to do that, how to set up your story, or even things about characters, how to make characters and how to have them flesh out a character, things like that. I think not everybody knows that.
I don't know. I guess I just feel like the classics didn't do that. They didn't read books about how to do that. They just did it.
Right. That's true.
So I think the more you overanalyze,
things are a little different.
Yeah, but I feel like the more you overanalyze creativity, then the less creative you are.
Maybe so.
I guess is like my point of that. I just feel like, I don't know, if I want to write a book, then I'm just going to write a book and then I'm going to read it and then have like maybe other people read it and be like, oh, this doesn't really flow or this does. And then take the feedback and do it from there, I guess. I don't know. But I mean, I also feel like I learned the basics of writing just in school in general, like how to outline.
Right.
But everybody's creative flow is different too. So I feel like for me, if I'm writing something, I don't outline. Honestly, I just blah it out on the paper and then I go back and finesse. That's how I do it. And I did very well in school. So I think, I don't know. I think.
But school and trying to get a book published in today's world is two very different things.
I guess, but I mean, I did like creative writing and stuff in school and just like papers and
but
things.
You were given assignments to do it, where in this, you're trying to write something that competes with other people, because if one person who knows exactly how to write a book, how literary agents and publishers want, their book's more likely to get published than if you just send in your book that you just blot out onto a page.
Well, you don't send them the book that you blot out. You blot out and then you finesse from there. I just feel like,
but I'm just saying,
I don't think that, I don't know. I think they're more just looking for what's going to sell. I don't think they're necessarily looking, because there are a lot of books on the market that are not flushed out characters.
I mean, that's
or
true.
Or like flushed out things or like good. They're just looking for what's attention grabbing and what's going to sell. I don't even think most publishers are actually reading books anymore, the books that are sent to them. They have all these other people reading, and then there's like attention grabbing, and then they're just like, okay, if that's going to sell, you think that's going to sell, if that's going to grab people's attention, then let's buy it. I don't know. I just think it's a little, I think it's pretentious in general to write a book. Or like reading like a writer, to me, feels silly, because writers are just writers. Like anybody can be a writer.
It's true. Anybody can be a writer, but not anybody can be a good writer.
Sure. I think if people are just like naturally talented, then they don't need to read a book about how to write. I think it just like happens naturally. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you can't be like, read the classics and when like the classics weren't reading books on how to write. They were just writing. And then they came up with these things that people liked, you know?
Right.
So I feel like when creative people write good things, they're not necessarily thinking about, well, what is going to get published. They're just writing what they want to write. And then it's just like in the last book we read,
Death of the Author. Right.
When she just kind of threw all of that out the window, when she was writing for what publishers thought she wanted her to write, it was all bad. And then when she just wrote what she wanted to write, that's what got her $1 million deals.
Yes, but that's a story. That's fiction.
It's a story based on truth, though.
Yeah, but Nnedi Okorafor is already a well-received author, so her book is going to get published no matter what.
Okay, I think you're missing the point.
Okay.
But she's writing based on her experience. I feel like maybe she also was writing things based on what she thought publishers wanted. And then when she just said, screw that, and wrote whatever she wanted, that's probably when she got published. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the whole idea of like writing a book to sell a book is what's not going to get you to sell a book. You should write for the love of writing. And if you write something that speaks to a lot of people, then it'll be
so
successful.
altruistic.
Yeah, I guess that's just me. As a creative person, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like
you're like James Holden, very righteous.
Anyway.
All right. Let's move on. We don't agree.
No, okay. I'll never read a book on how to write. And I bet you one day I'm going to publish a lot of books.
Okay, I hope you do. All right, moving on. There is no social media book buzz, so we'll move on to the book Water Moon. Let's get a recap on what we talked about last week.
Let's do it. So last week, Hana and Keishin came back from the Harishi, or the tattoo artist, and Hana tries to convince Keishin to go back home, but he stays to help her. Hana drinks the tea her father left her and hopes it's a clue. She has a memory of her grandmother when drinking it, so they plan to go to her tea house, but before they can, the Shikuin come by asking Hana about her father. She tells them the truth that she doesn't know, and they give her 2 days to bring back the bird he stole. Once they make it to her grandmother's tea house, they find out from her that her father wants to turn back time to save Hana's mother. When they leave, the Shikuin have found them and know about Keishin, so they chase them, but they narrowly escape. They then trek to the Museum of Education, where the paper crane maker Haruto resides. Haruto and Hana are childhood friends, and he tells her about how her dad came to him to ask him to fold time, which requires the use of Shikuin bones and are forbidden to have. Her father had some, so Haruto folded time for him, but he doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know what he saw. So Hana asks Haruto to fold time for her as well, and he agrees with reluctance as we find out they are meant to be married, which is upsetting for Keishin because of a romance that's been budding between him and Hana. The Shikuin find them again as they leave, and they jump down a well into a memory of Keishin so the Shikuin can't find them, and we leave off with them in this memory at a convenience store. And we did have some listener feedback. I'm going to pull it up here now from Jay. Hey Jay, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join in on us. We really appreciate it. Anytime that you have, we love it. So no worries. But Jay said that they like magical realism and don't have a problem with physics and magic. And she thinks that magic is just what people call what they don't understand anyway. Or people, yeah, which I would agree with. Although maybe I don't agree with that actually, because you still understand it. It's just understanding in a different way, I guess. She also says that she liked Keishin talking to his mentor in his head. Dad? And that she also usually has conversations with herself in her head, but likes the idea of creating an avatar of someone you lost. And that she also
I have conversations with myself too.
Well, she thinks it's just a way of thinking things through. Well, he has a more creative way of talking to himself in his head.
Sure.
He makes up somebody we don't know. We still don't really know about this professor guy.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. She said she also had a feeling that the mom wasn't dead either. And that her one quip with this book is that it feels very heavy-handed. Some of the writing seems too obvious, she says, like the foreshadowing or symbolism or literary mechanics that the author uses are not crafted elegantly enough to fit into the world, which I do agree with.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we started recording, right?
Yeah. This book is not bad, but it is very just kind of straightforward, and that's exactly how I think too. It does. She says certain lines remind me that I'm reading a book and pulls me out of the story, if that makes sense. And I do think that makes a lot of sense. I think that there are a lot of times where I feel like I'm reading it and I know I'm reading a book. I don't necessarily I like the world that we're in, but I don't necessarily feel too lost in it, I guess. So I totally understand what Jay's saying there. How do you think that? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's just it's very straightforward. There's not a lot of allegories or anything like that going on.
Yeah, but I also to Jay's point, it does kind of feel like she's trying to make that the author of it feels like she's trying to be have this symbolism and stuff.
Right.
But it's so obvious that it's not. But I think that's also part because I feel this way about I was saying about the Hayao Miyazaki films because they're for not all of them, but some of them are for children. And so a lot of the symbolism that the magical realism symbolism that he uses are kind of obvious and straightforward to a point. And to me, that's not necessarily bad. And it kind of fits in with the world of this idea of illusions and things like that. I definitely am I'm reading a fantasy book, I guess. So that does Makes sense, Jay. Jay's also usually a romance fan, but not liking the instant connection between Hana and Keishin, which we also talked about. It's much too fast. And she said they just meant there's too much blushing and willingness for self-sacrifice. There is a lot of blushing, which is also drives me crazy. It's like the romance that they are having is so hee, and I just really hate that. I really don't like that either. But also sometimes I feel like romance in general is like that. I feel like romance in general is rushed a lot of times. I don't know. I mean, you think of like rom-coms and like other like Disney movies and stuff, like these characters fall in love within 24 to 48 hours all the time.
Yeah.
He's also being like whisked away into this whole other world. So I think it's just all very like overwhelming, and he's with this pretty girl, I guess. And
maybe so.
And maybe they're fated. It's all fate. Fate doesn't have a timeline, you know?
Okay. Sure.
No, you disagree.
I don't know. I don't know anything about fate.
Who does? And isn't that the point of this book? Jay, as of April 4th, had only made it to chapter 19. So she's interested to see where it goes, curious about where the dad went and why he's still going through so much to stay hidden but still communicate with Hana. I also am wondering that as well. I've been wondering that the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, if he wanted to run away so bad and stay hidden, why is he also leaving her clues for her to come in?
Maybe he thinks that she can get away like he did. I don't know.
Maybe, well, yeah, we don't know. She also says she doesn't really care about Hana and that Keishin is okay. We're talking too about how the characters are a little flat. Yeah.
Yeah, the characters are flat in this book. I think, in fact, the only thing I've really liked so far about this book is the world building.
Mm-hmm.
The writing isn't spectacular. The characters are kind of blah. And there's sometimes really nothing going on, it seems like, even though there is something going on, but a lot of times it seems like there's not.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's that about. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But really, the only thing I really like is the world building. I think the fantasy world that Hana lives in is really cool.
And the author is like really good at writing the fantasy world and even the fantasy characters. I feel like the other characters are more interesting than the two main characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Haruto and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Shikuin, I'm really interested in them. I don't know what the fuck.
The tattoo artist.
Yeah, they're all really cool. Like, I'm almost just like, oh, I wish there was like I wish I could just live in this world and do my own thing in it. Instead of following these two people,
right?
You know. So yeah, so because the characters are flat, you do find that the world itself is much more interesting than the actual like plot of the story sometimes. Because even sometimes I forget what they're even doing. When then they're like, oh, we got to find the father. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that you guys were even doing. There's no urgency either. I feel like not a lot of urgency because the Shikuin like, you have 2 days, and she's like, okay, well we got to go on this really long boat ride, and we got to go on this really long thing to this and that and that and that. I'm like, where's your sense of urgency here? You've got 2 days until the new moon. But Jay has an interesting theory that Keishin might be connected to Hana's world in some way because of his mentor's ghost. He has mind magic, she says, and grandma is only accessible through dreams, so maybe he has a mental world too. And she says, I don't know, I'll leave the theories up to Miranda, but don't do that. We want to hear your theories, because I didn't think about that. I didn't think about Keishin already kind of being connected to this world. That's an interesting theory. Or like maybe his like mom was tied to this world or something. I think for a second I maybe thought that, but then I was like, that's interesting because his mom like left and stuff and her mom left. I was like, was there a parallel there somewhere? Like,
are
they connected in some way?
Or here's my theory: Keishin is just boring, and who gives a shit?
Dad hates Keishin.
Yeah. Not a fan.
But anyway, Jay, thanks. Appreciate it as always. Anytime you have thoughts, or if you don't have thoughts, no pressure to give us your thoughts. We're just straight chilling around here.
Yes, straight chilling.
But definitely appreciate it. All right. Well, we ready to jump into these next chapters?
Yep, let's go. Chapter 30. Chapter 30, we have a flashback to when Keishin helped a woman deliver her baby while stuck in an elevator. And to me, that's just random as fuck.
It's
because like, what the hell is the point?
I don't know. And I have low hopes of it having a point later. I'm like, I really hope that this has a point at some point, but I don't think that it will. It also just wasn't believable. It was like the most unbelievable labor story I've ever heard. Yeah, this woman. Okay, so this woman having the baby literally went from like just being okay on this elevator to now all of a sudden the baby's coming. Like that's not really how it works normally. There are some outliers, but usually labor. I looked it up because I was like, this can't be real. Like there's no way this happened. Because
I was going to say,
usually,
you've never been in labor. How do you know this?
well, I looked it up. Typically it takes 3 to 4 hours from the time you start to feel, because this woman wasn't even having contractions.
Yeah.
She was
True.
just standing
No contractions, and then all of a sudden her water just
and
broke.
then all of a sudden the baby's coming. And I'm like, that's not how that works. I'm pretty sure. And then afterwards she seemed so nonchalant after the baby was born. This random man just like helped birth her baby with no drugs in an elevator, and then he leaves and she was just like, thanks, thank you. And he just left and he was like, yeah. And he was like, wow. He's like, man, wow, that's just life right there, isn't it? Just having babies in elevators.
Yeah, that was a weird chapter.
It's like, what? Yeah, so that if we want to talk about being taken out of the story, that took me out. And it was the first chapter that we read. And I was like, what the fuck? What's going on?
I mean, I checked the book, make sure, did I pick up the right book?
No, literally. It was so weird.
All right, moving on to chapter 31. Haruto sent them a message on a piece of paper he gave Hana, telling them where they should go. And that's all that happened in that chapter. I mean, that chapter was like a page and a half.
Yeah.
Chapter 32. So they go to a village that takes wishes and hopes, and they create stars in the night sky with these wishes and hopes. And this is also where Haruto's mother lives, and he is there now as well. And it's a place that the Shikuin can't get to. And while they're there, they learn that the Shikuin tortured Haruto and damaged his hands to get him to tell them where Hana went. Although he lied to them. He lied to the Shikuin. He didn't tell them exactly where they went.
He did lie to them, and he was like, and I had to let them break my hand so they really believed the lie. Yeah.
Right.
Which was pretty crazy. This is another moment where the world, I was like, wow, this world is so cool, because it's just like a whole town dedicated to making the night sky.
Right.
And I thought that was just so beautiful and wonderful. I was like, if I lived in this world, that's where I would live. I would live in that town. I would help make the stars every night.
Well, only if that's what the tattoo artist says.
Well, sure, right. But I think that's what the tattoo
You wouldn't have
artist
to
would
worry
say.
about the Shikuin either, because they can't come there.
Exactly. Which is very interesting that they can't go there.
Right. So what if somebody does something wrong there? I guess the Shikuin can't go punish them, like, like they punished Hana's mother.
Yeah. But, well, I can talk about it later in the other chapters, because they do kind of seem like Shikuin apologists.
Okay.
They do.
Okay.
But that doesn't come up till a later chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she's like, no, we love them. We'll get to it. Yeah, no, really cool that there's like a whole town dedicated to putting up the night sky every night. And then like the stars that go up are like the wishes that these people make on their birthday. And again, and just so very much like, like a dictator being like, well, we gotta, even though these people live in these fated worlds where they can't do anything wrong because they're living under the tyranny of the Shikuin, basically, but dictators always got to give their people a little bit of hope, right? This having, making your wishes and hopes on your birthday is like the one hope that these people have.
All right, chapter 33, we have a flashback to the sentencing of Hana's mother, Chiyo. This is basically being told by Haruto, because he folded time, but he wasn't able to give it to Hana to look at it, so he looked at it, and he's retelling the story. And we find out that the Shikuin did not sentence her with banishment. Just before they were going to, they changed their minds and instead decided on a punishment more fit for the crime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was a good chapter. I love flashbacks. I love flashbacks.
Except for the flashback to the elevator.
Oh,
that was a flashback.
Yeah, but was it even? My God, that was so random. This one was like she was reading or he was telling her what he saw in the folded time. But yeah, I thought that was really sad and interesting. And I guess now we're wondering what the crime is, or what the punishment was. Sorry, not what the crime is.
Chapter 34 through 36, so 35, 34, 36. They stay in the village. Kaishin talks to an old woman who gives him an epiphany of what the Shikuin may have done with Hana's mother. There's another small flashback chapter about Kaishin and his stepmother when his father passed away. Kaishin explains that the Shikuin want to cause as much pain and thinks they sentenced Chiyo to cause her to long for her daughter Hana. And the reason he thinks that is because she wanted to hold Hana before they exiled her, which we didn't talk about in the last chapter. Eventually they let her do so and she held Hana, but then after that, then that's when they changed their mind and they're like, oh, here's another way we could punish her, which is probably more painful for her. So Haruto's mother tells them of a place called Children Who Are Not Really Children, and that may be where they're keeping Hannah's mother. She tells them they can learn more about that place at the night market. Mm-hmm. So I think this is the part where you wanted to talk about the Shikuin.
Oh, well, yeah, the old woman
was... It was the old woman, yeah.
It was the old woman who was talking about, like, no, like, we need them. Like, they keep everything in order. And, like, why would we be... Why... I don't remember exactly, but... She was just like, no, this is just our job. Because then also she goes into her story about how like she wasn't fated to have kids. She then wished that she could have kids on her birthday. And then her sister ended up dying. And so then she had to take care of her sister's kids. And she like blames herself for that.
Right. Because it's like, okay, her wish was granted because she got her sister's kids when she died. It's like, sounds like a wish when you make a wish in Dungeons and Dragons and Dungeon Master turns your wish around into something awful.
Right. Sure. But then like
genie or whatever.
Yeah. But then like instead of her being like upset about the world that she lives in, she's like feels guilty for wishing against what her fate already was.
Right.
It seems like they are like, no, it's like good that we know our fate. And the Shikuin are the ones who, you know, protect the birds and this, that, and the other. And so I feel like, especially in this village, because they don't ever deal with the Shikuin, they're probably a little more like they don't really understand how bad it is.
Right.
Because they never go there. So thought that was interesting.
So chapter 38, they set off for the night market. But first they go to the Lotus Lake. Hana has a plan to keep the Shikuin off their tail. They encounter some fish called Hansha that copy what they see. Hana and Kaishin go into the water and the fish make a copy of each of them. Then they go to the place where Haruto lied about to the Shikuin of where Hana went, which I guess there's some water there or whatever. And they use those fish to lead the Shikuin on a goose chase.
Yeah.
There's really not much else to say about that, I don't think.
Well, that was cool. I like the fish. They reminded me of when I was in Puerto Rico and we were kayaking in one of the big lagoon and they have the like light up plankton, the plankton that like glow in the dark. Reminded me of them. They don't make copies of you, but that's what it reminded me of. And that's what I was picturing was like the light up like plankton, like forming images and running around. It was also like smart thinking on her part. So that way, because she was like, well, we're really doing this so that the Shikuin don't know that Haruto lied too. So she was also protecting him. So that was smart. She's very smart. She's always got good plans and she's always coming up with them rather quickly.
Yeah, she does.
But I still don't really feel like total sense of urgency from her though.
Right.
But then I also wonder if that's just like the culture too.
Yeah, it could be.
Because like in Eastern Asian cultures, they're not rushing around like we are here in the West. Things are a little more smoother paced.
Chapter 39, on the trip to the night market, Hana tells Kaishin what the birds are that they buy from the visitors to the pawn shop. And what they are pieces of the customer's souls. So the people of this world, they have no souls. And the birds are used to make the ink that the Harishi uses to tattoo people. This is what gives them a soul. So
they need souls to create their fate, or like the tattoo ink itself is their soul? Because then she goes on to be like she's a parasite or something. Right?
Right. I mean, she says that because they're stealing parts of people's souls. So she feels guilty about that, I think.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of both. It gives them a bit of a soul, but it also creates their fate at the same time because whatever gets tattooed is their fate.
Right.
So I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah.
So their soul, having a soul is what creates your fate. It's such an interesting, I just feel like somebody's lying about something there. Like it's probably not necessary. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the Shikuin are just doing this to like, you guys are born without souls. And so we have to give you souls and in order to have a soul, that means you have to have a fate. It's just a way of controlling, I think, you know?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, maybe
we'll find out more later.
I think. When in reality, it's like that's not necessary, but we'll see.
All right, Hana tells Kaishin she kissed Haruto, but it didn't feel the same as when she kissed Kaishin.
And more romance.
Oh, yay. Chapter 40. They run into a man and wife that have an inn, and they stay the night there. The man and wife end up being ghosts because Hana looks at them through her magical glasses to find that out.
Mm-hmm. Because I said neutrinos and ghosts. Because she's talking about how they're ghosts, and of course Keishan's like, what? Like, what do you mean they're ghosts? Like, do we need to leave? And she's like, no, they're harmless. It's fine. And then he's like, wow, he says he never believed in ghosts. But then she says to him that because she says like, what do you mean? Like, didn't you move to Japan to study ghosts? He's like, what? She's like, neutrinos. She said, you said that they're remnants of the past, wisps of nothing that you cannot see or touch, echoes that carry stories of dead stars. She's like, are those not ghosts? And he was like, oh yeah, damn, I guess, yeah, technically. Ghosts.
They're not ghosts.
Dad.
They're building blocks of everything, just like they're smaller than atoms. They're the smallest building blocks of everything. They're not ghosts just because we can't see them because they're so small.
But they're remnants of the past. But is that not the same? The definition that he gave to her as a neutrino could also be said for a ghost.
Well, then that means you're a ghost because we're made of stars too.
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on ghosts and the timeline and how time isn't linear and how we all are actually just ghosts.
Oh, God. No, don't get started on that. I'm sorry. Don't.
And that's what I thought even too when they were at the Museum of Education where she puts on the glasses and like everybody's like there, but they're not there because they're at a different time or whatever. I was like, yeah, alternate universes and realities.
Okay.
Science and magic. They're the same thing.
No, keep my science and magic separate.
No, but they're the same.
All right, Hana and Kaishin come close to having sex. Ugh. Then Kaishin shows Hana that he did get one tattoo from the Hiroshi before she stopped it. And he shows her the tattoo, and it's her name that's on his arm. And he thinks that the journey with Hana will be the end of him.
Yeah. Well, because the tattoo artist said she was going to start from the end and go back to where he was now or something because he's already grown. So she was going to start with the end. And the first thing she tattooed was her name. So this is where his journey ends.
Oh, yeah.
At Hana. But yeah, wasn't expecting the little amounts of smut we got in this book.
Yeah, it was just a little bit.
I know it's just a little bit, but I was like, oh.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it either.
I was like, oh.
Which leads us into chapter 41 where they end up having sex.
Yeah, no, very, very, very minor smut, I know, but I just was like, I didn't know. Whenever I don't know that there's smut, and especially when it comes later, I'm always just like, because it's not a smutty book.
Right.
I was just like, oh my God, okay.
Yeah, it was surprising. All right, so then they travel to the night market where they have to climb up to the clouds.
Yes, and then also in this chapter, she has like her final... Is it that her final was like the moon in the water? She has a moon in the water tattooed on her. She has like a moon in the pond as part of her tattoo. And I think it was the end. I think it was like the last thing on her journey was the moon in the water. And she's like, doesn't know what it means. And he's like, yeah, interesting. I don't know what that means either. But he's talked about the moon in the water before, has he not?
Yeah, he has. Yeah. He has.
And like his mom used to say that. And like he gave like what it meant because it's like about illusions, right? It's about like reality and illusions and things like that. It's like a Buddhist proverb. So I was just like, why is he acting like he doesn't know what a moon in the water means?
Yeah.
When she's got it. Because she's like, wow, I don't know what that. And I've never known what that means. And he's like, yeah, interesting. And I'm like, either you're really, really stupid. You're not making the connections. He is a man. They do that. Or he's hiding something.
Because he's a man and they do that also.
Well, they do. They're like, you'll say something that's like, oh, that like has a connection. And then they're like, huh. You're like, hello? They do. They do that in real life. Anyway. I also thought it was silly how a lot of these chapters end because they'll end with Keishin asking like a practical question and Hana will answer with some like whimsical thing like we might fall through the clouds and then the chapter ends. And it's just happened so many times at this point to the fact where it's like starting to lose it for me because at first it's like, oh, what a cute whimsical way to end a chapter, but it's like keeps ending with her saying some crazy ass shit.
Yeah, it stops being whimsical when it every chapter ends that way.
Right, with her saying something like, we might fall through the clouds. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
like, we get it. we're in a magical world.
Yeah, we get it. Your world is way better than ours.
Right. But I think she's saying it in a practical way, too. It's just funny how the author has chosen to end many, many chapters at this point in this way.
Yeah. This book has some problems. All right, chapter 42. They make it up to the night market. They're told to talk to the porters for the information they desire. They play a dice game with the porters for the information. They have to wager a happy memory, which is stored in a Kyoko pearl extracted from the body. Kaishin volunteers to have the memory extracted so he can brag to the porters about having sex with Hana.
Not true. That's not what happens.
It's not true.
In fact, he really doesn't want them to see it.
Yeah, sure. That's what he says. Remember, men are hiding things. He did want them to see it. Yeah, well, he's like, yeah, see?
No.
Hey, what's up?
No. I don't think he's like that. I think he's just dumb.
Yeah, he's dumb. He's a physicist. How's he dumb? Anyway, so Kaishin has to drink something that makes the pearl appear in his body somewhere. And then Hana cuts the pearl out. I think it was just in his arm or wrist or something. And she cuts the pearl out of his body. But they end up winning the dice game anyway. So they get the information without having to give up the pearl, which Kaishin ends up keeping the pearl. He puts it in his pocket. The porters tell them about the children who are not children and that they are children born in this world that don't get a soul from the Horishi because they don't have enough ink for all the children in this world. So maybe that's why the Shikuin didn't want anybody to steal birds, because they already don't have enough ink all the time. And so if you steal one of the birds, then you're taking away some of that ink. Maybe it's just as simple as that, or maybe there's something more nefarious to it. I don't know. But either way, these children are then buried alive. And the porters tell them if they want more information, they should talk to the originator of the rumor, who is the owner of stall 510 in the night market.
I really liked the porters. I thought they were really cool. They reminded me of pirates, so I liked them.
Yeah, they kind of did.
Yeah, that's how I pictured them. I pictured them as like really weird looking pirates and just, making wagers and like, yeah, we'll give you information, but you got to give us something. You got to play a game.
Right. Yeah.
That was cool. Also, you didn't mention there's another Kaishin disassociating moment where he goes and talks to Professor Guy.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, I didn't mention it because I don't give a shit.
Because you don't like it.
I don't like it.
Yeah, but he does say something in it like he's talking to his imaginary friend.
Yeah, he did say that.
Which I thought
and that's why, to me, it's weird.
Yeah, that kind of confused me a little bit. So I'm interested to see if we find out more about this character, this fake character in his head.
Yeah.
No, since your favorite, another disassociating moment. I think he's literally just disassociating in those moments too when he goes.
Maybe he's just crazy.
Well, yeah, probably.
Because look, I talk to myself all the time when I'm by myself, but I don't imagine that I'm talking to someone else. That's the part that's weird to me. But okay.
I don't think it's weird.
And maybe it's just written this way so that instead of having him talk to himself, he's actually talking to a different character. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why the author did that. I don't know.
Maybe. Hopefully we find out.
Chapter 43, the vendor at stall 510 writes down on a piece of paper what he knows, and he gives it to Hana. And since that's the last chapter we're covering today, we don't know what happens or what's on that paper.
We don't know yet. We don't know. And that wraps up our discussion of chapters 30 through 43 of Water Moon. Things are heating up, and we can't wait to see how it all wraps up in our next episode, where we'll be covering the final chapters, 44 through 62. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What's resonating with you in this story? Drop us a message on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, or Discord. Links are in the show notes. After we finish Water Moon, we'll be taking a short 1-week break, but don't worry, we'll be back on May 2nd, kicking off our next read, Buffalo Hunter x Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Our intro music is Upbeat Funk, performed by Mikhail Smusev, and our outro music is Lo-Fi Chill, medium version, performed by Bodan Kuzmin. You can find both tracks on pixabay.com. Thanks for joining us, family, and we'll see you next week.